Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And then there's abortion. A difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue.
It's been nearly a year since Bill Maher launched his relentless crusade against the woke movement, and he shows no signs of letting up. His latest target is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's been traveling the country like a progressive GPS, delivering her activist message, but Maher isn't impressed, and he's making that clear.
I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
True to form, kicked things off by posing the tough, uncomfortable questions. This time zeroing in on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her relentless push for a far-left agenda that many Americans are increasingly rejecting. He openly wondered why anyone would keep advancing an ideology so often viewed as toxic, polarizing, and out of touch. Yet AOC, unwavering in her belief that she holds the moral high ground, continues pressing her Latinx vision onto the country regardless of public sentiment. But Maher didn't stop at critic wit. Followed was a sharp, calculated dismantling of her platform, a rhetorical takedown so precise it left little room for spin or social media damage control, setting the stage for a savage exchange you won't want to miss.
And then there's abortion. A difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people.
That moment, Democrats' refusal to define what a woman is became the hill they chose to die on, a stance that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago when it was universally understood that women menstruate, can become pregnant, and give birth. What was once biology became ideology, reshaped by progressives into a doctrine where men could be women. Gender was fluid, and even asking questions branded you a bigot. Ordinary Americans pushed back, seeking honest answers, but instead getting lectures, cancellations, and scolding from coastal elites in their echo chambers. While the left clung to this new orthodoxy, the broader public walked away, and the result was a crushing electoral defeat, not because voters were cruel, but because they were tired of being told that truth itself was offensive. In the process, Democrats didn't just lose ballots, they lost credibility.
Now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids.
When you keep backing people into a corner, eventually they push back, and not in the way you expect. AOC and her party marched through deep blue states as if armed with a political blank check, acting untouchable, unquestionable, and unstoppable, convinced they could ram through any radical policy with their base blindly in tow. But they miscalculated. What they didn't see coming was a silent revolt. Voters who once cheered them flipped almost overnight, abandoning the Democrats and heading straight to the GOP, the very group AOC had spent years vilifying. This wasn't a slow drift. It was a political earthquake that cracked even the safest Democratic strongholds, leaving once solid fortresses showing real fractures. Now the looming question is whether this is just a temporary stumble for AOC or the beginning of a complete unraveling of everything she's built, something Bill Maher might be more than ready to hammer home in his neck.
An 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team, and the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stop seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
If you've been wondering why Bill Maher keeps tossing around phrases like my lawyer and their lawyer, don't overthink it. This isn't courtroom drama. It's political theater at its sharpest. His point is simple. Voters expect their elected officials to act as advocates, defenders, and representatives of their interests, not as attorneys for the opposing side. That's where AOC and her progressive allies stumble. Instead of standing with the people, they've been talking down to them, lecturing, grandstanding, and pushing policies that leave voters asking, whose side are you even on? Maher isn't just pointing it out, he's building a case step by step, exposing the widening gulf between what voters want and what they're actually getting. The irony is that while AOC presents herself as the underdog's champion, in the courtroom of public opinion, she's starting to look more like the one on trial. And when Maher finally delivers his closing argument, it won't be gentle. The verdict could shake the very foundation of her movement.
Schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education, partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher? Yeah, you're gonna say, congratulations teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
It wasn't just Latino voters that AOC and her progressive allies managed to alienate. They also struck a nerve with something even more fundamental, the education system. And the fallout looks like a report card stamped with failure. Under the Biden administration, cheered on by the far left, policies were introduced that made it far harder to remove underperforming teachers. Noble in theory, disastrous in practice. These rules tied the hands of school administrators nationwide and triggered a freefall in student performance. Between 2020 and 2023, average math scores for 13-year-olds dropped 9 points, the steepest decline in half a century, while reading scores fell by 4 points. And the very teachers at the heart of the collapse remained protected like untouchable relics. So, while AOC rallies crowds with buzzwords and Bernie Sanders chants the same tired class warfare slogans, parents are left staring at plummeting grades, asking where it all went wrong. This isn't just a policy misstep, it's a generational train wreck, leaving the big question hanging. Can the Sanders AOC wing really help the DNC recover? Or are they about to march the party straight into both academic and electoral detention? Either way, Maher's next takedown is shaping up like a final exam, and spoiler alert,
Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer.
Sometimes, when you look back at the policies Democrats try-dance spectacularly failed to push through, it's almost impossible not to laugh. These weren't small bureaucratic slips, they were headline-making policy disasters that would be funny if they weren't so damaging. The defund the police experiment collapsed the moment crime spiked in major cities, leaving its loudest champions quietly backpedaling. The rent cancellation crusade sounded clever in a college dorm, but crumbled under basic economic reality. And the push to eliminate standardized testing, that was sold as progressive fairness but came off as lowering the bar and calling it justice. As Maher put it, it's like Democrats are running a masterclass in how to lose the middle in 10 easy steps, and they're acing it by failing. The absurdity is that the same architects of these blunders still believe they deserve another shot at steering the country. But Maher isn't about to let them sneak off stage without a brutal
In 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities, so it seems fair that they jump the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh.
drives home a razor-sharp point. If Democrats truly want to claw their way back into power, they need more than catchy slogans and moral grandstanding. they must confront their past failures head-on and, more importantly, reconnect with the very people they've ignored for years. That means not talking at voters or assuming their struggles from the comfort of a DC office, but sitting down face-to-face, listening without jargon or judgment, and rebuilding trust. Relying on polls and think tank theories is exactly what cost them support in the first place. Maher isn't suggesting they sell out. He's urging them to get real. Otherwise, they're just shouting into an echo chamber, while the voters they need most have already walked away. The clock is ticking, and the only question left is whether Democrats will wake up before the window slams shut for good.
All these issues, the wavering voter is saying to her lawyer, the Democratic Party, hey, so happy for you that you have so many other clients and that you care so much about their problems and all the pro bono work you do. But you're supposed to be my lawyer. The Democrats need to be like the lawyers you see on billboards. You hurt, we fight.
Bill Maher makes a cutting observation. If Democrats want to regain power, slogans and moral posturing won't cut it. They have to own up to past failures and rebuild genuine connections with the voters they've neglected. That requires ditching the habit of talking at people from insulated DC offices and instead engaging directly. Listening without jargon, judgment, or condescension. Polls and think tank theories won't win back trust. Only authentic conversations will. Maher isn't telling them to abandon their values. He's telling them to get real. Otherwise, they're just echoing into an empty chamber while the very voters they need most keep walking away. Time is running out, and the question is whether they'll adjust before the window closes for good.